Welcome to the afternoon session. Thanks for an awesome lunch, amazing tour. We're going to start off our afternoon with alternative crops, and our first speaker is Mark Uchanski from the Specialty Crops Program up at CSU. Mark serves on faculty at CSU in the Department of Horticulture and coordinates the CSU Specialty Crops Program, as I mentioned. He teaches and conducts research in support of Colorado's vegetable and specialty crop industry. His team manages more than just acres of certified organic research and demonstration space just north of Fort Collins, and this farm has been certified since 2002. Someone with a lot of experience in the industry. Take advantage in the Q&A. With nothing else, I'll give the floor to Mike. Thanks. Mark. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, absolutely.
Here's a clicker.
You bet.
I do a little better with slides, but I'm so thankful for that introduction.
And you just stay in the box.
Okay.
Yeah, because you'll be on video for
Stay in the box.
Zoom folks. Okay.
What's in the box? I wasn't sure if we were doing a panel or a series of presentations, so I do have a few slides that will help me keep on track, but
Sure.
I'm really glad for the introductions and the co-location of solar energy and specialty crops on farmland is something that I've become interested in recently too. So thanks for doing the introductions. Will this go? There we go. All right. So yeah, that's my name first there, Mark Uchanski. I'm with the Specialty Crops Program. I'll tell you a little bit more about what that is, but I'm on the faculty at Colorado State University, and I spend about half my time doing teaching and half my time doing agricultural research. So there we go, alternative crops, although I think it's a little probably better and more comfortable for me to talk about what we do with the Specialty Crops Program at CSU. So there's our pretty picture of lots of different types of specialty crops, which includes all the fruits and vegetables. And specifically my bread and butter, my background, my comfort zone for teaching and for research is in vegetable systems. So since we just did introductions, I'll do a little more in-depth introduction. And I didn't really introduce myself during that session, so I'll do that here. Talk a little bit about specialty crops and why that's important if you work in that area, because it basically frees up some money from the state of Colorado if you work in specialty crop systems. A little bit about alternative crops if what you work in doesn't fit in that definition. So like hemp is usually not considered to be a specialty crop and isn't allowable. It's on the list of ineligible specialty crops and can't get funding from the state for that reason directly. And then any time for questions that we might have. And how much time are we allocated here? I don't have that many slides. Okay. I also teach. We have an organic agriculture minor at CSU, and so we have a number of students that go through that program each year. And I teach a couple of the courses in that. So that's how I spend my time on campus. And I like to throw this in here because the CSU Rams, the green and gold, can look pretty similar to, depending on how you do the certified organic seal there. Yeah. That's me at a field day. We host field days. This is just north of Fort Collins. My kids call this research farm the beer farm because it's right across the street, right across I-25 from the big Budweiser plant on your way up to Wyoming. I'm originally from Illinois. This is the background introduction part. I'm originally from corn and soybean land, and I wanted something different, so I moved to New Mexico in the early 2000s and took a position serving that commercial vegetable industry, chili peppers, onions, and then I became the organic guy there, kind of because of my own interests. And then when a position opened in 2015 at CSU, doing exactly those things, teaching and certified organic systems, inheriting that farm that McLean mentioned. That was one of the first farms in Colorado to get certified right after the National Organic Program. And so I took over that research farm that has certified organic space where we do certified organic research. And that's been certified since 2002. So McLean mentioned in the introduction, I oversee the CSU Specialty Crops Program. And there's our mission statement there. What I think is really cool about this relationship is that it's the only combination of land grant university, so that's CSU, and the land grant mission that goes with it, pairing up with the state's Department of Agriculture to help kind of be a cheerleader for specialty crops in Colorado. So fruits, vegetables, and all all the things that fall under specialty crops. So there's our logo down below. Here's a little bit about the specialty crops industry in Colorado on the top of the slide. You can read over that, including fruits and vegetables, but all the specialty crops and certified organic operations. Like I said, my comfort zone and the area that I do most of my outreach and education and research work in is in vegetable cropping systems. So I put that pepper picture in there for that reason. But specialty crops is it's everything horticulture. So from turf to Christmas trees to nursery industry, floriculture, horticulture, medicinal plants and herbs, fruits and tree nuts, vegetables. No one person can do all those things, but I try to help coordinate and understand what projects are happening in Colorado through that program. And like I said earlier, that's important because if you work in an area that is specialty crops and touches on any of those things, doesn't have to be research. There is a pot of state funds from the Colorado Department of Agriculture for specifically specialty crops, and it's about $750,000 a year or so to support the specialty crop industry in Colorado. Has anybody applied to that program in the past? Anybody heard of that program in the past? Okay, at least a few have heard of it. And so unfortunately, hemp is on the list of ineligible commodities. Things like quinoa. Quinoa is not a specialty crop by this definition. So that's pulled out. It might be an alternative crop. It might be different or special, but it's not by this definition of specialty crop. So there's funding for this. If you work in those other crops, there are other groups of pots of funds to support that. But one of my roles also is kind of saying, well, if you work in specialty crops and specifically fruits and vegetables in Colorado, there's this conference and organization that was organized right about the time that I started here in Colorado. I wasn't directly involved with that, but I'm really glad to see how much it's grown over the years. And so their upcoming conference is February 27th through 28th, right here in Denver. And there's kind of a snapshot from the webpage as well. Yeah.
Do you ever see USDA adding hemp to the specialty crop list? Do you
I
see
think
that?
I have not seen it. Are you saying it
Or
happened?
do you anticipate it?
I don't know.
Sounds like there's this alternative crop
Yeah.
category where like kernza or quinoa or hemp maybe it's a bucket it falls into in a sense.
And I think it's a state by state decision about what the priorities are. So I think if you maybe made your voice loud enough and you wanted to have access to those state funds, I have heard of certain states, I think Pennsylvania might be one of them, that said, yes, with our specialty crop allocation of funds, we'll fund some hemp projects. I'm not aware of that happening in Colorado yet. So that's a great transition to alternative crops. Again, I do research and I teach at CSU, so I think where can I get the money to do the work that we want to do to help support Colorado growers? So one program for that is USDA grants, and there is actually one called Supplemental and Alternative Crops. Has anybody heard of that one before? If you're interested in collaborating on grant opportunities, do let me know. But this one is for alternative crops, and for the request for proposals for this year for 2023, that's now closed. It was specifically focused on canola and hemp, and specifically that's the better genetics for hemp and for canola for that matter. So I don't know what next year's request for proposals will look like, but that's a touch on alternative crops too. For those ones that don't fall neatly in commodity crops like corn and soybeans, or specialty crops like vegetables and fruits, there is this alternative crops category. Oh, and I did put in a slide because I figured someone in this group might have an interest here, but in recent years, we've begun integrating renewable energy like solar. And this is actually grid tied into specialty crop systems, including vegetable systems. So this is that's the beer farm. There's the Budweiser plant, research farm just north of town. We have about 8 acres of certified organic land, and then it's about a 65-acre farm. And that's where we do our hemp, specialty crops, and certified organic research. And then this term, agrivoltaics, is kind of integrating a lot of those together. So there's a couple of websites, including hemp and my email address. This one is terribly out of date, so please don't go there, but trying to kind of figure out how to reinvent that a little bit. But I have my contact information there. So I'd love to answer questions, or if the next presenter needs to go up next, I'm pretty flexible in terms of how to interact with this group.
Any immediate questions for Mark?
What's been the biggest challenge in maintaining certification since 2002?
There was continuity of people. So my predecessor was Frank Stonecker. He's the one that actually got that area certified. There was an interim period there where we had to kind of make sure that the students were actually helping us with that, and the farm manager was helping us with that. But they maintained it. They kept it going. And so I'm very glad to have a very mature research site. Otherwise, it's been really easy to work with CDA in that process. But we do have a mixed farm where it's conventional and organic in the same place. And so that gets a little complicated, but
Sure.
we can.
Brad, have you inspected them?
Yeah,
I was gonna say.
All the problems.
I was at your San Luis Valley this year, and I've been up the Rogers Mesa
Okay,
a
yeah.
handful of many times actually, and where's the other one at? Not here, but where's another one?
You haven't been to our deck?
I haven't been to our deck.
Yeah, so for a while, that beer farm, Arctic South, was one of the few places that had certified organic land that was part of CSU's portfolio. And so I'm so glad that
One
it's
of the Vista
expanding.
area, like the Dove Creek area, don't they have one out there?
Yeah, exactly,
Yeah,
right.
somewhere over
And so that's been growing over the years, and I should be, saying, yeah, that's great.
Yeah, that's very interesting one out there, yeah.
Our
I
certified
have a
organic.
question as well. When
Sure.
you do this research, are you also looking at like, commercial scale application in your research? Like what makes sense for a farmer now looking to scale this and do it commercial?
Yeah, absolutely. So, for example, with an onion project where we were investigating strategies to manage bacterial rot in onions, you cut open your onion and you gotta toss it in the compost because it has a bacterial rot in it. Well, that happened back in the field probably, and after the farmer had put a whole season of investment into it. And so that is aimed at the commercial onion growers of Colorado, and the smaller growers, but really it's a national project, and so we want to fit into that context and have recommendations that come out of that be applicable to a large scale producers.
Very good.
Conventional and organic.
Thank you, Mark.
Yeah. Be happy to interact with the rest of the group.
All right. Thanks. I tell you, we've got some incredible resources. I am just keep reminded every time another speaker. There's a gentleman, Brian, come on up, and we're just gonna have a short conversation. I work with a lot of organic brands, and these brands exhibit at like Natural Products Expo West. If you don't know about that, Google expowest.com. But I met Brian Olesen at one of these international fancy food shows, might have been San Francisco or New York or something, with Colorado MountainJam. So Colorado MountainJam, certified organic, and he has won, in the specialty foods industry. They have a thing like the Grammys, it's called the Sophies. So Brian, how many Sophies has Colorado MountainJam won?
So we were finalists 6 times in 3 different categories. We were the first and second ever winners of the outstanding organic product in the world. So our jam line was done that. QVC used to carry us. I used to do QVC programs 6, 7, 8 times a year. It's one of the first certified organic farms in Colorado. Prior to the formation of the organic program in 2001, I bought a farm in 1998, and it had been run organically prior to that too.
And you're out in Palisade?
Palisade, Colorado.
Mhm.
So it's like some of the premium fruit in the world grows there. 2017, we also got involved in hemp. The certified organic programs, I always certified, early I did with Colorado, but I transferred to QAI. We exported internationally. We wanted to have an international representation in terms of what we were doing with that.
And QAI is a certifying agency. You
Yeah.
felt they were good for international trade, though?
Then we got involved in hemp, and it became very, very obvious in that industry that most farmers aren't farmers. What this program here has done today is it starts with soil. And so what Gene Kelly was talking about is absolutely, the most important starting element in terms of what farmers need to get involved in. My primary reason for even accepting to come and talk here is because I'm not an expert on anything. But the
But
primary
you've really
reason
vertically integrated your business for a
we
long
did
time.
that. So I can talk to people about the economic development, the struggles. One of the things you'll learn from this show today is that if you really want to become an organic farmer, it's called work. Our system in America is predicated on efficiency. That is the only thing that matters. We're the most efficient farmers on earth, and we are the most unhealthy people on earth. So my primary reason to come here today was this program today is about health, okay? So a China study was done by Cornell University in which it looked at the world and health. And in this particular study, and you can find this in a book by Joel Furman called Eat to Live, in which it shows if you lived in Laos today, heart disease and cancer are non-existent, virtually don't exist. You come to America, number one and number two, that's what's killing Americans.
It's our
Number three
lifestyle
now.
choices, yeah.
Number three, what's coming up is where my wife was talking about dementia, in terms of people younger and younger ages, all starting to deal with that. And that has to do with toxicity. So I was hoping there would be a lot of farmers here today because the absolute most important thing that they need to do is to convert, and this nation needs to convert to organic farming. We need to make a commitment to health. Like I said, we are the most unhealthy nation on earth. We spend more money on earth. And the solution to this is what's causing is inflammation. Inflammation, 120 different inflammatory diseases. You name it, fibromyalgia, lupus, everything. These issues can be addressed to a certain extent by food. Probably the number one contributor to why we're so unhealthy. By 2030, 50% of America will be obese. 50%, not overweight, obese. If we don't make changes, what you guys are trying to do here today, this is absolutely the most important thing in this nation outside of, I would say, school choice, in terms of where we need to go. This message that you guys, you experts are all putting out here is profound. And a farmer has to be committed to working. You just don't. The name of my orchard was called the One Straw Organic Orchard. That was predicated on the book called The One Straw Revolution about the father of organic farming in Japan. I never did no-till where I live. I live in Grand Junction. It's totally dry. You just can't have enough water to actually compost anything. So I've never, ever added, fertilizer, never added chemicals. We don't do any of that stuff. One of the things I wanted to say today also, and this is very controversial will be, is that when I got involved in hemp, and I run a technical laboratory, not like MileHab, but we do laboratory testing for people all over the country on hemp, on looking at cannabis. When I got involved with hemp, what I decided to do was to follow the cannabis guidelines, which was you test for heavy metals, you test for microbials, you test for pesticides. You have this battery of tests. In my opinion, all food, that standard should be applied to food. And if we did that, we wouldn't have any food out there. Now, here's what precipitated that for me. I live in Palisade, Colorado, best peaches in the world. Farmed there for 130, 140 years. You would assume, my God, it must be the most healthy soil in the world. Okay? So we're growing hemp, and I have an extraction facility. We send the stuff off to the laboratories to have tested, and products coming back with heavy metals on them. That was a shock, to say the least. Getting a heavy metals test from products, from fruit grown on land there. the people who get this back, all they wanted to do was remediate it. Well, how do I remediate this? And I'm saying, my God, we have a serious problem. Heavy metals is probably one of the major causes of dementia or adding to cognitive
Where do you
stress.
think it came from in the soil?
So my research with that, I went back 50, 60 years ago. They used as a pesticide arsenic and lead. It was used in a pesticide spray
50, 60 years ago.
50, 60
And that
years ago.
stuff's still there.
And that's the thing that, here's my recommendation to the organic certification is that, you know, when we first started, they had a 3-year, and they may do the same thing. So you had a 3-year transition period. Well, 3 years doesn't mean anything. You should be able to go out and have a soil test done, pesticide test. Those tests could be done tomorrow. And you find out if you have a problem to begin with that needs to be remediated, and you can convert to farming. But 3 years of not doing anything, I would say, and I'm not backing this up by science, other than the results from hemp grown on lands that have been farmed forever, coming up with heavy metals on it. Pesticides, absolutely pesticides showing up. So again, I was encouraging people, wanting to encourage people here. This is survival we're looking at. This is a crisis. We are in crisis in this country and the world in general. So that transformation has to happen. And here's another thing that needs to take place. If I go to Grand Junction, we live in Palisade. Clifton is a kind of a neighborhood community there. They have what they call a value-added Kroger store, city markets, what we call them. If I go down Patterson down to 12th Street and I go to the city market there, you walk in the doors, everything is organic, big organic. You go to the Clifton store and there's this little section about like this, that's organic. Fundamental issue for us in this country is education. When people are poor, they don't get an education. If food is the cure for these diseases that we have out here, you've got to look at a way to make organic farming viable economically. You know, I think you told me the other day we went from 5 billion to 60 billion. So that market, though, should increase if people start to focus, if at the government level we start to focus on health, really did that, that would push. We should literally eliminate conventional farming, period.
Well, you know, it's grown to that level really by the consumer. Certainly has been, you know, against a lot of market subsidies and pressure. So it's amazing that organic has grown as much as it has. We're still a small percentage, but, you know, I mean, produce, I think it's probably up to about 20%. The people are buying organic produce, and that was not the case 10 years ago. I wanted to invite Brian here to be a bit of a conscience of why organic. And if there are 2 movies out there right now, one is called Organic Rising, and you should look it up. It's an amazing movie. It just came out in October. Another one is called Common Ground. And both of those are really great movies to watch for reasons. And one of them says even, you know, glyphosate that was applied in the 50s could still be affecting people 3 generations later. And the theory is that obesity is not just about overeating, it's about metabolic disruption from some of the pesticides, in particular glyphosate, which is the world's most widely used pesticide, so much so it's in the rain.
Completely banned in Europe, though.
Yeah. So Brian, we're gonna have to move along. Do you have a question?
Sorry, I have to ask. Is vanilla pear yours?
Is what?
Vanilla pear jam?
Yeah.
Oh my God, I love you guys.
Yeah. I mean, the other thing I wanted to mention
I swear
earlier
to
is
God, I have all these.
just above and beyond organic. They didn't win awards for nothing. It was because of flavor and taste and quality.
Look 'em up.
And that, I think, is what's been advancing organic, is it actually does bring out more nutritional density, more flavor profile. And, you know, where you used to get that thing about the wormy apples back in the late 60s, it is not like that today. It's a very sophisticated organic market.
I'd like to talk about one other gentleman. He's a farmer out of Corvallis, Oregon, called Bob Wilt. And we bought blueberries from Bob. He is probably the best farmer on the earth, period. So when when you're in the jam business, fruit is measured by Brix, which is the sugar content of the fruit. So one of the ways that almost no orchard growers in Palisade would go out with their Brix machine and test their fruit to find out, they would touch it, but they wouldn't test it for Brix to find out how sweet it is. And that's a function of the quality of the fruit. Well, Bob Wilt has blueberries that'll be in 25, 26 Brix. If you look at a Brix scale, probably a perfect blueberry would be maybe 16. And if I took you to the grocery store right now and we tested a blueberry, it wouldn't be 8. So one of the things that needs to come along with this process is determining, how do you determine what quality actually is? That's a component of, we have healthy soil, we're growing a healthy plant, then why is this plant? So when I was just up at the hydroponics section up there, most people I know that are organic farmers have always been opposed to hydroponics being certified organic. And the reason for that is, and I asked him, I said, if studies been done to show that growing in the soil and growing hydroponically, do you really get the same value out of that? You're shaking your head. I would say, I can't prove that scientifically, but I would just totally doubt that as being possible. So it's really, really important elements that we need to broaden this. But the work you're doing, this stuff, this place, I mean, my God, maybe there's hope for America.
It just might be. It just might
You are
be.
doing terrific work, and
Brian,
I'm just blown away personally.
Thank you for coming
Yeah.
all the way from Palisade. Judith, thank you.
Wonderful, Brian, thank you so much for your time. I will take this moment just on the last two with both Brian working at CSU, or I'm sorry, Mark working at CSU, and Brian. Next Friday, I'm going to be putting on an organic field day in Paonia at Twisted Root Organic Farm. And we're going to have Brad Tonneson from the Hotchkiss Rogers Mesa farm come and present at that field day. It's 10 to 2, and I'll send out an invite to everyone here.